workshop is a very boring word, and the word I don't want to use, because I remember when I was your age, and they would tell me that there's a workshop, and I would be, oh no, not the workshop again. I don't want to do that to you guys. So I try to keep this as informal and as comfortable and interactive as possible. So let's call this instead a discussion. There are some things that you learn as you grow up, and all I'm trying to do here is impart some of that knowledge to you so that you don't make some of the mistakes that I made, and you can learn some things that I learned a little earlier. Okay, so can you all see the projector first of all? Can you read what's written on it? Don't call me ma'am. So, as it says over there, there's just one rule to this discussion. And that's, if you think that anything I'm saying is irrelevant or will not add any value to your life or is boring, please raise your hand and let me know. I'm a friend. I'm not a guest in the school. I'm not somebody giving a workshop. So just let me know so that I can, modify what I'm saying so that both of our time isn't wasted. Let's keep it relevant. Alright? Alright?
Yes.
Okay, and I also want you to respond to every question I ask. So, if you can read what's written on the board, those are the 10 things I will be trying to discuss with you today. So, what is today's discussion about anyway? Like ma'am already said, Anila ma'am, I'm just going to try and tell you some things which helped me a lot in life, which helped me achieve, and which will continue helping me in the future to become successful. Okay, so I won't read these. So we'll do a small activity now, okay? What I want you all to do is close your eyes. Close your eyes. We're going to time travel now, okay? So I want you all to imagine that you're not in Sangeet Hall anymore. You're not in 8th grade. You're not in DPS Dubai. You're now 30 years old. And you're living in your own house with your own family. And you go to work every day. And you do your job and you come home. And you're not satisfied with your life. You see all your friends doing much better than you in life. They drive bigger cars. They have more fancy job titles. They make more money. You can't afford to send your kids to the most expensive universities in the world that they want to go to. You can't afford to buy everything you want to buy. And when you run into your own old friends, the only thing that you feel is regret at how they are doing much better than you, and how they are more successful than you, and how you got left behind. All you want in life is a chance to go back and change that. Open your eyes. You're all now back in 8th grade. Just realize right now that every single decision you make, the smallest of things, whether it's a club that you join, the career that you choose, or the activities that you choose to do in your spare time, all have a huge impact on your future. And you may not realize it yet, but as somebody who's applied to colleges, who's extensively thought about my future, I now realize that all that is actually true. So if you don't want to spend 50 plus years of your life stuck in a rut, doing something you are not happy with, then it's very important that at this crucial stage of your life, you all make the decision. You make the decision to be successful, to be happy. You have to make a decision, which means that you will have to work hard for the next maybe 10 years of your life, so that the 50 years after that will be fulfilling. And it won't be easy, but if the future that you just saw is something you want to avoid, then it's something you must do. So how many of you here want to make the decision with me today to do whatever it takes to be successful? Okay. And those of you who haven't raised your hands up might as well take a nap, because that's what the rest of the workshop is going to be about. Okay? So as long as you guys have made this decision and you guys are determined, we can move on. So the second thing I want to discuss with you is how to be T-shaped. Now being T-shaped is not some kind of exercise regimen or diet regimen I want to talk to you about. being T-shaped means something totally different. What does being T-shaped mean? It's got to do with your personality and your knowledge. Now, by being T-shaped, it means that your knowledge should be both broad and deep. Let me explain to you in more detail what that means. Okay, so this guy, he's a hippie. He's got broad knowledge. He knows a lot about probably many things, but nobody would want to hire him. And this guy is a computer geek. He has a lot of knowledge in one particular topic, that is computers, of course. But if you met him somewhere, do you think you could have an interesting conversation with him? Do you think he could impress you with his personality? Please answer me when I ask you questions. Yes? Not everybody likes to talk about computers. What is more impressing is probably, general knowledge. Knowledge of somebody who can speak about every topic that comes up in a conversation with, confidence, knowledge, and that is more impressing. So what being T-shaped means is being a mix of these two. Somebody who has broad knowledge about many things and can hold a conversation with anyone about anything. That kind of person is charismatic. He, captures the attention of people. He's somebody everyone wants to get to know. But there's no point of being like that if you don't have deep knowledge in a particular single subject of your choice that you can apply to your job. Because everybody else will have that, and there's no point to having charisma if you're not good at what you do. So what every one of us must aim to be is T-shaped. Have broad knowledge in many things and have deep knowledge in one subject of our choice. And how do you do that? Of course, these are things that everybody has already told you. You must read, you must watch the news, you must watch newspapers, you read newspapers, but all these are things that most of us don't want to do anyway. And there are better ways you can get broad knowledge. How many of you spend a lot of hours on YouTube? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, hands down. So instead of watching, the YouTubers that you watch, maybe subscribe to one or two educational channels. They really make knowledge bite-sized and so interesting. How many of you have heard of the YouTube channel Crash Course? Yeah, it's super interesting, isn't it? And at the end of it, don't you feel like you've learned a lot and that if someone were to bring something up in a conversation, you would have so much to contribute? Isn't that a good feeling? Yeah, so that's what I mean by being T-shaped. And this again, bringing me back to YouTube, is something that needs to be discussed with our generation. How to stop wasting time on the internet. Now, I'm not going to tell you a lot about being, motivated yourself and having willpower, because if you all had willpower, had motivation, then wasting time on the internet wouldn't even be a problem, right? I'm going to talk about what you can do to make sure that you don't let your lack of willpower bring you down. Okay. First of all, eliminate notifications. This isn't very difficult. Don't keep your Facebook tab open all the time. Don't enable desktop notifications. If there are notifications, there is temptation. If you get rid of notifications, you get rid of temptation. Okay? And the second thing, have a separate workplace and, if possible, a separate work computer. If you do this, if you have a particular place you sit where you study, a particular computer you use when you study, again, it reduces the temptation and it gets you in the zone. You're in the frame of mind when you sit in that place and when you look at that computer to study. If you're using, the same place, the same computer for both fun and studies, when you're studying, your mind will wander. Oh, I could be doing that thing on Facebook, I could be talking to this person, I could be watching this video. Having a separate place in computer will, again, eliminate this desire completely. Get a friend to monitor you. Now, this only works if you have a friend who genuinely cares and who doesn't have the same problem as you. If your friend sees you online, sees you wasting your time, it should be, someone who can tell you, get off Facebook and, get back to studying before the exam. So if you can get somebody to monitor like this, there's nothing better, because people don't listen to their parents and teachers as much as they listen to the counsel of their friends. So find somebody who really cares about you, who really wants you to do well in life, and it could be a mutual arrangement between you both. And track where your time is going. Now, how do you do this? On the side, you'll see that I have rescue time written over there. What is rescue time? Rescue time is an app that you can get on you can open it on your browser and install it like an extension. And what it does is it tracks how much of your time you spend on which websites. And whenever you want to see it, it will show you in the past few hours where you spend most of your time. It will show you charts and diagrams. And this will, sometimes you don't even realize how much time you spend, wasting, how much time you waste on the internet. This will give you a clear picture of what you're doing and how much time you're wasting so that you can cut it down. If you find out that you spend 3 hours on YouTube, it doesn't feel like 3 hours, but somehow it's 3 hours. You can cut it down to 1 hour and time yourself and then recheck again with this app to see that you're not breaking the time limit. So this is something very useful. I would want people to get who are having problems with controlling the internet addiction. And make procrastination more effort than you're willing to spend on it. So what does this mean? Everybody over here knows about procrastination, correct? How many of you procrastinate? That small a number? None of you delay doing things like homework and delay doing things like projects. That's what procrastination is. Waiting till the last possible minute to do something. Yeah. I know. I've been there too. You can ask my mother how much trouble I used to get in for not submitting my work on time. So I know because I've had this problem and I've found ways to overcome it. So let me tell you before you get into the same amount of trouble as me. Okay, so these 4, again, I don't know if you can see the names, but maybe I'll be able to email the presentation to you through teachers.
You want this presentation so that you can look back at it when you go.
Okay. So these 4 are apps, okay? Let me just read their names out. Cold Turkey, Focal Filter, Stay Focused, and Self-Control. 2 of them are for Windows, 2 of them for Mac. So what you can do is when you download these and install them, they block certain websites. And unblocking them in case you ever get tempted is a lot of trouble. So when that happens, you feel like, studying or finishing a project will be less hassle than going through all the trouble to unblock that website, which is sure to take up a lot of your time, which will ensure that you don't turn in your project. So what you're essentially doing here is making procrastination a lot of trouble to do. So that way you end up not procrastinating and you can get more things done with your time. Today I want to talk to you all about, okay, what do you see on the board? Does anybody know if there's a difference between those two? Okay. This is of course with respect to your life, okay?
Anybody who wants to answer?
Take initiative means to take a new task and take controlling the task we are already on it.
Yeah, so this is the point I want to get across, that it's very important for all of you to do both of these things. And they're almost similar, but there are slight differences between these two. It's very important for you to take control in your life. Now, let me give you an example of a friend of mine. So, I have a friend now, as you might know, I've graduated 12th grade. So, usually, if you're not going to India, much before you graduate, you send in all your applications to colleges. But a friend of mine never really bothered thinking about college and she left it entirely to her parents. Now her parents, having studied in India, didn't know that there was a deadline to submit the applications before you graduate. So now what happened is that the colleges I applied to in November with deadlines last year, She's now trying to apply to them, now almost 3-4 months later, and all of them have deadlines closed, so she can't get into the universities that she wanted to get into, and she can't study there. Now, why did this happen? This is because she relinquished control of her life to her parents. She let other people decide for her what will happen to her. Now, this just doesn't make sense to me. Shouldn't you be entirely in control of what happens to your life? Of course, right? So, that's what I want to tell you all, to take control of your life. Be a part of every decision made in your life. If your parents are deciding something for you, go, talk to them, be a part of the decisions. And don't make the mistake of not being in control. Realize that you are the person who has to take care of yourself. So don't relinquish control. And what does take initiative mean? This means that you must do what you can to make better opportunities for yourself so that you can do better in life. Now, let me give you an example. This is a WhatsApp forward message that I read a few days ago, and usually those are things not worth remembering, but this one really stayed in my mind. So, I don't remember his name, but there was a guy in Hyderabad. He was born blind. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. He was born blind and he did very well in 10th grade. Okay? He got an excellent percentage, I think 90 plus, I don't remember. Yeah, a very good percentage. But none of the universities, none of the PUC college, 11th and 12th grade colleges in India were giving him admission because he was blind. So for 6 months, he fought a court case with the government, the Andhra Pradesh government, to get admission into the university, 11th and 12th grade. And once he graduated 12th grade in science with, I think, 98%, which is absolutely incredible. Let me tell you, it's very difficult to get that good a score. So, and then he ended up going to, getting into the 4 best universities in the world: MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, and Carnegie Mellon. You guys have heard the names of those universities? Yeah. And now he graduated from MIT and he's doing very well. So what happened is, again, he didn't relinquish control in his life. He didn't leave it up to the state government to decide what would happen for him. And he took initiative, he fought the court cases. He applied to those universities against all circumstances. He did what he had to create opportunities for himself to do well in his life. Now, all of you aren't in a situation which is half as difficult as what he faced. You're all in Dubai with parents who want to see you educated, with the resources you need. So why should we be laid back when we have so many opportunities that we can seize and so much initiative we can take to do well in our lives? So that's the point I'm trying to get across. Don't settle. Now, what this essentially means is not to be satisfied. Now, this doesn't mean not to be happy. What this means is that you shouldn't be satisfied with what you've achieved in life. Suppose you've studied for 2 years and now you've mastered French and you can speak French fluently. This doesn't mean that you can, stop. Look for the next big thing you can do. Look for how you can improve the skills you already have. Look for how you can gain new skills. Don't settle for who you are and for skills you have. Always try to be better, because you can rest assured that everybody else you're going to be competing with in life is doing the exact same thing. So if you don't, you're going to be left behind. And nobody likes being left behind. So this is an example I want to give you, okay? I'm applying to a few internships in India, so I had to make a resume for myself. So look at the one on the left. That is the first one I made using Microsoft Publisher. Now I wasn't too happy with it, but I thought it was okay. And then I did my research and I realized that most people make resumes with this software, which is kind of like a programming language. Kind of. It's somewhat like HTML, which some of you may have done. Most people make their resumes with that software called LaTeX. Now, the thing is, LaTeX makes for much cleaner resumes and it impresses employers more. But I already had my resume ready. I could have just settled for it. I could have said, it's fine, I'll submit it. But I didn't. I spent days trying to figure it out, and I ended up with the resume on the right, which is much cleaner, it's more succinct, and it will make a better impression with the employees. So that's what I mean by don't settle. If you have something, don't be happy with it. Keep trying to improve it. You don't know what opportunities this may lead to and how huge of an impact it may have in your life. Now this tip is something you might not understand. This whole time I've been talking about success, and now I'm telling you to forget about qualifications. Now I'm not telling you not to get a college degree. A college degree is very important. But all I'm telling you is to change your mindset. Let me show you how. Have all of you watched Titanic? Yeah. So the director of Titanic is a guy called James Cameron. He's an incredible guy. Okay, after he directed Titanic, somebody went back and told him that the stars in the movie were aligned wrong because in 1912, which is when the actual Titanic sank, the stars in the sky looked different. He went back and he changed the movie so that the stars looked more accurate when you actually see the movie now. You know, he's an incredible guy, but what you all may not know about him is that he's also a deep sea, he drives submarines underwater, okay? And he's been doing this since the age of 15. So he manned the submarine craft recently that made the deepest dive in the past 50 years. Nobody's dived deeper than him. Okay, he's even given a TED talk about this subject. I have the link in the PPT. You can watch it when you get the PPT later. Yeah. So a lot of people, when they heard about this, there are always ignorant people saying what they have to say. They said that, you know, why would a movie director be given the opportunity to, you know, deep sea dive? Why not send somebody who's more qualified, who's, you know, been a deep sea diver forever? This is clearly not something he's committed to, etc. Okay, first of all, he had been diving since he was 15 years old, so the fact that he was not qualified is actually wrong. But that's not the point I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make is that you shouldn't let qualifications hold you back. If there's something you want to do, chase after it and find a way to do it, even if you haven't formally studied it. Study it on your own, you know. Learn the knowledge for yourself. Don't say that, oh, I can't build a website because I haven't studied web tech or I don't have a degree in web designing. Learn how to do it and do it yourself. Not having qualifications is just an excuse. Now this is something that works only for personal development, okay? You can't go for a job interview and say, oh well, someone told me to forget about qualifications, so I didn't get a job degree, I didn't get a college degree, please give me a job. That won't work. If you're doing something professionally, you need a degree for it. But in your personal time, for your personal development, don't let the fact that you only have a degree in one subject or you've only studied certain things let you fall behind. You can still do things to, you know, advance your time. I was talking to somebody who knows a person who's hiring for a Fortune 500 company in the US, and he told me that they've stopped looking at qualifications. If somebody can display previous projects and can display adequate skill, even if they don't have a college degree, they're, you know, snapped up by people. So it's very important for you to develop yourself and learn your own skills and not make excuses about not having formally studied it. You don't need to. With all the resources you have with you nowadays, with the internet and whatnot, it's very possible for you to learn something on your own and get very good at it on your own. The only reason you should get qualifications are so that other people hire you. It's not to do with you yourself and what you can do. And now the sixth point. Set yourself
What most people
apart.
think of doing
is making a document, right, where they list out all their achievements. In fact, that's what even I did for my internship. As you saw, I made a document and I listed out everything I've done. I listed out my education, my projects, etc., etc. But there are people who have done things so differently that, you know, there have been articles written about them and they've gone viral on the internet. A girl called Nina, I don't remember her last name, she always wanted to work really bad at this company called Airbnb. So what she did is she got a domain name on the website. She got a domain name, and on the website she wrote an entire article about why she wants to work for Airbnb and what she can bring to Airbnb and how hiring her will be a good decision. And what she did is she included that link to that website. She put it everywhere on social media. She sent it to her friends, and she didn't even formally apply for a job at Airbnb. But what happened is the company's recruiters, they looked at the website, they looked at her work, and impressed, they hired her immediately without as much as a job interview. Now, why would they do that? They know almost nothing about this girl except for the fact that she really wants to work and that she has some plans for the future of the company. Without even meeting her, how could they hire her? It's because she did something to make herself stand out. She showed them that she knows how to think out of the box. Most people go the normal route. They send in a job application, they wait for a response, they go for an interview. She did things differently, She thought of a shortcut and it worked. And there are other people, people who include QR codes in their resumes that lead to, personal websites, or people who apply through videos informally. Like they send videos to the companies showing people how they've done everything they've done in their life and what their qualifications are. So it's being different that made these people stand out and get hired in life. Now this is just one very small example. The point I'm trying to get across is whenever possible, don't be like everyone else. Now, I don't want you all to make videos for the student council. It may not be a bad idea, but in our school, it may not work. All I'm saying is that there are times when you should, follow the rules and do what needs to be done. But there are also times where thinking differently and doing things in a way that no one else has ever thought of will be extremely advantageous to you. So at every important stage in your life, please think to yourself, what can I do that will make me different from everybody else? What is everybody else doing that I can do in a much better way? And this will take you places. Yeah. So again, to reiterate the point I just said, the things in life that make us special are the things we choose to do and not the things we have to do. Everybody has to attend school. But not everybody has to take part in extracurricular activities. Everybody has to send in job applications, but not everybody has to make a website or has to make a video. So it's those things that you choose to do that make you special, and not the things that you have to do, like coming to school and studying. Now we're going to talk about something called an impossible list. Now this is my favorite part of the entire discussion because it's something you all can do today when you go home. Now what is an impossible list? Has anyone heard of it, or can anyone take a guess?
The things which are not impossible to do.
Which are impossible to do.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Which are not. To try out new things which anybody else has not done.
Anyone else?
Things are difficult to achieve, but we put it in our list or the goals we want that we work hard to achieve.
Thank you for all your answers, but unfortunately, all of you are wrong. An impossible list is not very different from a normal list. Now, you all know what a bucket list is, right? It's a list of things that you want to do before you die. Sorry. How an impossible list is somewhat like that, but the concept behind it is totally different. Now, a bucket list is a list of things that you make once in your life, and then you spend the rest of your life taking them off. At the end, you want to be done with the list. You want everything to be checked off. You want the list to be complete. Now, this is where the impossible list is different. Now, why is it called the impossible list? Because this is a list of things you want to do, but it's a list you can never finish. It's impossible to finish this list. Why? Because it's dynamic, it's changing. Making an impossible list means that you're making a commitment in life to never stop learning. Suppose you start off with an impossible list with 5 things on it. As soon as you tick one thing off, you add another item to the list, how you'll improve the skill, or how you'll move on to a more advanced skill, or how you'll apply your skill. So what you do is, as you keep ticking things off on your list, you add new things, you build your skills, and it also acts as a good reminder of everything you've accomplished. It gives you a lot of motivation, see items which are ticked off. It'll motivate you to fulfill everything else on your list. So while a bucket list is something you must complete, an impossible list is something which must never be completed. It's something which is impossible to complete. So now this is just a screenshot of my impossible list. It's much longer, but I've just shown you a few parts of it. A lot of the items you see are still unchecked because this is something I made in January as part of my New Year's resolution. So I decided to keep an impossible list that will stay with me and write down skills I want to learn. Another reason why this is extremely useful is there are times when you find that you have nothing to do, tests are over, you have nothing to study, and you don't know what to do with your life anymore. Having an impossible list gives you direction. It gives you a list of things that you can do with your spare time. It's something that will help you accomplish even when you're probably not in the mood to do it. Seeing a list like that will give you motivation. Okay, so I want to have a small activity now. I want everybody to take 5 minutes and think of maybe 3 to 5 things that they would have on their impossible list. And I want you all, of course, to go home today and write this down and have impossible lists of your own, because they add a lot of value to your life. And I want some of you to share with everyone today what's on their list, just so people get some ideas and we have an interesting discussion. Does anybody want to get us? Okay, you.
I want to learn every language possible to speak, to learn the dictionary, and when I grow up, I want to go to Oxford to study.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
When I grow up, if I do any job, I want to take it to the highest and achieve goals, learn new things, and see more things and from other famous people. And
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll have one more person speak. One more person?
Learn Spanish, scuba dive, skydive, visit New York, and learn Latin.
Even I want to learn Spanish someday. Okay, so I just have one piece of feedback. So what Shauna did here was list very specific goals. Learn Spanish, visit New York. Now, an impossible list, by its very nature, is something which has goals which are very small and very specific. For example, a while ago, I wanted to learn how to touch type. So it's this way of typing on your keyboard that greatly increases your typing speed, which for me is something very important. So my goal in the list wasn't type faster. My goal was learn to touch type at 50 words per minute. When I did that, my next goal was learn to touch type at 70 words per minute. So what you need to do is make your goals as small and as specific as possible so that you can take them off quickly and move on to the next thing. It's the being able to take them off quickly part that makes it so addictive, do everything in your impossible list. So, for example, if you want to go to Oxford, what you should write in your impossible list is you should look at the application requirements, and you should make a list of everything you must do to be able to get into Oxford. It shouldn't be, I want to go to Oxford. It should be, for example, learn a foreign language. That will boost your application. It should be start an extracurricular activity like public speaking. And so you should make your goals as specific as possible for the list to really work for you. Okay? Now, number 8, productivity tips. Okay, so why does this weird tomato have a timer on it? Okay, that's because I'm going to discuss something called the Pomodoro technique. So, what's the Pomodoro technique? It's something that I used for the time. It really helped me when, I wasn't able to get myself to study at all. So, what the Pomodoro technique is, you get timers like these. This is an actual working timer, and you also have apps for Chrome. You have Chrome extensions. You have apps you can download to your computer. And what it does is it breaks up your study session. For example, suppose you have to study maths for 1 hour today. What the Pomodoro technique is, you study for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And then you study for 25 minutes again and take another 5-minute break. Now, so in 1 hour, you get 50 minutes of study done, which is probably much more than what you end up doing if you're constantly pushing yourself to study. What this does is it gives you a clear goal, and there's also a reward at the end of it. And you don't get the reward if you don't study for the 25 minutes. So the reward at the end keeps you pushing, and it makes you much more productive. So for those of you having trouble focusing, go home and download a Pomodoro Technique app and just stick to it for a while. 25 minutes of studying, 5-minute break, and it will really help you get more out of your time. And the secret to a good memory is something called spaced repetition. Now, to understand why this works, I'm going to have to tell you a little bit about how the human brain works. So, you may all know by now that the human brain is made up of neurons. It's made up of neurons. So, what happens in our brain when we store memories is we don't actually store them physically. Every memory in the human brain is just an electrical signal pattern between neurons. So what happens is each time you go back to a memory, the pattern of signaling, the pattern of electrical signaling becomes stronger. This is why cramming the night before the exam never works. Because the night before the exam, you study everything within a very short period of time. So there's only enough time for the signals to, go through once. So the pattern isn't very reinforced in your brain, and it's not easy for you to remember. So how you can exploit your brain's function to enable you to remember more is to use spaced repetition. Now what that is you study the same thing over long periods of time at regular intervals. So for example, suppose you want to study a new word in your vocabulary. Okay, let's take an example, a word copacetic. Okay, what this means is everything being in order. When everything is in order, everything is copacetic. Suppose you want to learn this new word. If I just tell you now and I meet you 3 years later and I ask you the meaning of this word, there is no way any of you will remember, am I right? Yeah. So the way you can remember this is spaced repetition. So what do? You write down the word copacetic now. And 2 weeks later, when you forget the meaning of the word, you look at it again. And you do this at regular intervals of time until the pattern has gone in your brain so many times that there's no way you'll forget it. You look at the word for a few minutes or seconds even every week or every 2 weeks. At some point of your time, it'll get ingrained in your memory and you'll never be able to forget it. So that's what spaced repetition is. But here's the thing, we may not know how to implement spaced repetition properly to study, right? And that's where this app called Anki comes in. So Anki, A-N-K-I, is a flashcard app that you can download on your computer. So what it does is you can enter information on it that you want to learn, and it makes flashcards automatically. And then what it does is it uses spaced repetition. You don't need to do anything. The algorithm for spaced repetition is built in. So it will show you the things you need to study at regular intervals that the app decides. You don't need to worry about it. So if you start studying for a test 1 month in advance and you enter all the, 1 month is not long enough and I'm just giving you an example, and you enter all the information into the app, it will show you what you need to learn at regular intervals, maybe every 3 days or every 4 days, until it's firmly seated in your memory and there's no way you can forget it. Look for the fun in work and the work in fun. So what does this mean? Why must you look at the work in fun? Now this is again another productivity technique. So if you make to-do lists, right? A lot of us like making lists. I'm a compulsive list maker. So you write things like probably from number 1 to 15. Every single thing on that list will be utterly boring and will be something you don't want to do. Nobody puts fun things on, to-do lists because it's something you do on your off time when you're not working. Now, this is a bad habit because usually when you think you're taking a break, you end up taking longer breaks than you expect, and getting back to work seems like the most unpleasant thing in the world. So what you have to do is look for the work in fun. If you have a hobby or a passion, don't keep it separate from your work. Integrate it. Put it in your to-do list. Make it a part of your work schedule. So when this happens, work doesn't seem so unpleasant. Because you know that if you do math homework from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, you get to do painting from 6 to 6:30. So if you have a to-do list that's much less unpleasant than what you used to have, then following it will not seem like too much of a chore. So look for the work in fun and for the fun in work for you to be able to make the most of your time. Okay. Now this is based on a very interesting article that I read a few days ago. Usually people encourage you to talk about your goals with your friends, right? If you have something you want to achieve in life, like even I did right now, I asked 3 people to talk about their goals, and the reason some people say this is good is because it provides accountability. What it means is, suppose somebody tells you, oh, I'm going to run a marathon tomorrow, and then they come to school day after and everyone's like, oh, you ran the marathon, and the person says no, it's very embarrassing for him to do, am I right? Yeah, so telling your friends provides accountability. It holds you to do what you have to do. But there's a flip side. The disadvantage of telling your friends what you want to do, again, is based in human psychology. So what happens is, suppose you're talking to your friends and you tell them, I'm going to accomplish this in life. You know you haven't done it yet. But the mere act of telling your friends you're going to do this engages the reward system of the brain. What this means is that the very fact that you plan to do it and that you told your friends you're going to do it will make your brain feel like you've already accomplished it. This is of course in your subconscious, not in your conscious mind. But just talking about your goals a lot will make your brain feel like it's something it's already done, something it's already accomplished. So your motivation and your desire to do them after you talk to your friends about it really reduces. So it's better if you don't tell your goals to anyone and you keep them private, because the more private it is, the more you have motivation to work hard just so you can prove to people that yes, this is what I have accomplished. So of course, this is different for different people. For some people it works better if they tell others what they have done, and for some that doesn't work out for them at all. So it depends on what kind of person you are as to whether you should share your goals with other people or not. I'm just placing the facts before you. Okay, I'll just look now. We're on 9 and just have 10. So this is where I spend a lot of my time on the internet nowadays. There's a blog called College Info Geek. Now, the reason I'm telling you about this blog is because it's run by a guy called Thomas Frank. Now, this guy is the god of productivity. He does so much with his time, and he does it in such innovative, interesting ways. A lot of what I have learned in life comes from this guy. So So this blog makes a lot of interesting content, and guess what? We make YouTube videos too. So you might want to subscribe to College Info Geek, and it'll really help you, take your productivity up to the next level. So number 9, tools. This will be a really quick section. I'm just going to tell you some tools that may be really useful to you. So Todoist. Todoist is an app that you can get on your laptops, on your computers, on your mobile phones. It's really a to-do list, but it's got such an amazing interface, and it's got a reward system built into it as well. So it's really good. I use it on a daily basis. Now Habitica is something that you video game players may like. So what this app does is it takes your goals in your to-do list and it turns it into a video game. So what happens is, as you tick off each of your goals, you get XP, experience points, and using your XP, you can use it to, buy avatars, you can use it to buy weapons, and, you can play mini games with your friends. So it's so interesting for people who have a video game addiction. You can use this app and put your to-do list in it, and it'll feel like playing a video game, but you're actually getting work done. Now, Trello is an app for group projects. Now, how many of you have suffered in group projects before? Yeah. Me too. Hands down. Okay, hands down. So Trello is an app. Trello is an app you can get on your phone, and what happens is it allows many people to work on one project, and you can clearly see how much has been done by whom. You can assign tasks. It's an amazing, useful app, and the Student Council started using it from last year. That's how we get a lot of our work done. How many of you here have trouble getting up in the morning? Yeah. So the next app is for you guys. So this app is called Buffer, okay? So what this allows you to do is you type out a really embarrassing Twitter post or a really embarrassing Facebook post, and you put it on a timer. So you say, for example, that this hugely embarrassing Facebook post has been put on a timer to be posted at 8 o'clock in the morning. And what happens is you usually set an alarm for 7:45, but then you wake up and you hit the snooze button. So what this app lets you do is, if you hit the snooze button and you don't get up by 8 o'clock, that really embarrassing post will be on your Facebook wall when you get up. Yeah. So you can hold yourself to get up. So when you get up at 7:45 in the morning, you can't hit the snooze button, because if you do, everybody will know about the hugely embarrassing thing that you did in 3rd grade. So it's a really cool app. I don't have a problem getting up, but for those of you who do, it's very useful. Now, okay, we're at the last section of the discussion. So this is about how to stay up late. I'm guessing that the same people who find it difficult to get up in the morning also find it difficult to stay up late at night. You're in 8th grade, so I don't know how tired you night trying to cram, get up, do a few stretches, walk around the house for a bit, play with your pets, that's what I do. And then come back and study. So taking small breaks and doing some sort of activities in between will help you stay clear. Otherwise, just staring at your books all night will definitely put you to sleep. And the last word, most important, incentive. So tell yourself, okay, if I stay up till 12 o'clock today, I can watch 20 minutes of my favorite TV show. So, before you go to sleep, you're saying, if I get up tomorrow morning and I have to go to school directly, I won't get to watch my TV show. So you'll want to stay up till 12:30 and study just so you can watch the TV show. So it's important to give yourself incentive.